How's everyone doing? Hopefully well. Today we're going to look at this 2017 Jeep Wrangler. It was a very intermittent overheat condition, and just how I utilize a Misfire Monitor before I really do too much of anything, way before I would use a combustion leak detector fluid. So let's look at it. So we're looking at the Misfire Monitor on this one. We're trying to figure out if we have misfires before we start diving in too deep. The complaint was overheat, and I pull up the Misfire Monitor. It says global disable. That is basically telling us the Misfire Monitor isn't going to work, and chances are it's from a low fuel condition, and in this case it was a low fuel condition. In this slide we're looking at the engine data, and you can see that the fuel level percentage is below the threshold, and that's disabling the Misfire Monitor, which we call a global disable. Again, there's multiple reasons for that, causes for that I should say, but as far as disabling goes, it also disables the capability for the vehicle to throw a misfire code, and you need to keep that in mind if the driver always runs low on fuel. So next we're going to want to figure out a way to get this Misfire Monitor working again without having to go to the gas station, fill it up, wait for the monitor to start working again. We want to try and make this as painless as possible. So what I recommend you do is, if you have the capability, in this case we have a high-end WITECH scan tool that is available to the aftermarket. Well, you can go under guided diagnostics on the left side of the screen, and you'll have what's called reset ECU. Now we're going to want to reset the PCM, and after we do that, we're going to basically take away the global disable for at least a few minutes. It's pretty quickly going to realize that it's low on fuel, but it takes a few minutes, so that buys us some time to start it up cold. We don't have to warm it up, go to the gas station, come back, wait another day. So you're going to see that in a minute and how that works, but yeah, this is a nice little feature of the scan tool. It helps for a lot of things. It's equivalent to a capacitive discharge of your computers by disconnecting the battery and touching the terminals together. On your laptop, you'd call it like a hard reset. So very similar. It's clearing out the capacitors, clearing out erasable memory. Now we see that it says waiting instead of global disable. So that's what we want to see. And then when the monitor is actually running, it'll say in progress. You'll see waiting sometimes, like when you're driving it and you get above a certain RPM or you're decelerating for a few seconds, it can say waiting. And that's typically pretty normal. So we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. And now we want to see what happens, see if there's any misfires on cold start. Now we start it up and it goes from waiting to in progress. We count misfires on cylinder number 2, which on a 3.6 is the driver's side or left side front cylinder. That's either going to be fuel, oil, or coolant that's gotten in that cylinder in most cases. So we now have evidence to get approval to pull the intake manifold, pull the plug out, put a bore scope in there, see what kind of fluid is getting in there, and go from there. In this case, you would definitely want to check for coolant level being low, not just in the reservoir, like on this JK Wrangler that doesn't have a surge tank, but in the radiator as well. In this case, reservoir full, radiator was low. Not tremendously low, but enough to overheat the vehicle and cause some issues. And where was that coolant going? Well, in the end, it was going into the cylinder. So just always check your fluid levels. Really, that should be done first before you even start diagnosing anything, is check your oil level, coolant level, do the multi-point. And it's especially important when it's drivability related. You don't want to find out that it was, something like low fluid causing all your issues.